Hey everybody, so I'm back and I just wanted to kind of chat with you guys openly and candidly because I found myself frustrated today and I actually had a period where I was just like yelling out in frustration because I just didn't want to keep all of that inside and bottled up. And and then I kind of felt pulled, or like it dawned on me to talk about something. And that something is sorry, let me turn my phone on to do not disturb. Okay. Now, that something is the cycle between abuse and abusers. And when we exhibit abuse and kind of like the essence of abusers in a way. And now this isn't everybody, but this is because some people just have a mentality about them that they think that they can take whatever it is that they want. And sometimes this is based on who it is that they're raised by or just, their mentality. But I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the vicious cycle between abuse and abusers, because a lot of times we find that, or I have found, and sometimes I like to say we, because a lot of times I'm talking and communicating with spirit. So when I say we, I mean me and spirit. But a lot of times I found that when somebody is an abuser, they were often abused in their childhood and they exhibit the same type of abuse that they have undergone. It's kind of like the situation where people who have been, like, say somebody who has been sexually assaulted, and then the person, when they're younger, when they're a child, and then they grow up, and they end up sexually assaulting someone. And this, you may not think that it happens a lot, but it does happen a lot. And it's something that's very common. Or if someone is verbally abused, you'll often find that that person grows up to be kind of not necessarily, this isn't all the time. I'm talking about people that carry these traits. A lot of times are abused, or like, so if someone's verbally abuses people and just says, whatever out of anger, often they were talked to that way as a young individual. And what it is that was kind of coming through to me within this is that a lot of times people that are abused in some way, shape, or form, and that abuse never gets acknowledged, people are then walking around trying to cope and find these coping mechanisms that aren't healthy, and they also get tainted, especially if they are extremely sensitive. And this was something that I went through myself, because before I found my journey, I was extremely angry and yelled a lot and just very frustrated, very mean, and rude. And, that's not the essence of myself. That was a way that I walked around in this world where I was deeply hurt. I was deeply saddened. I was deeply traumatized by the way that people treated me. Not just family, you know what I mean? But like everybody that I had ever encountered, the way that these people treated me. And I became mean and defensive and almost this person that was spewing this tough, rigid negativity before somebody else could meet me with this energy. And it was a way to protect myself. And I was so frustrated and so angry and just wanted to be left alone by the entire world, because nobody had ever treated me in a way that was the way that I viewed to treat a respectable human being. And through my healing and through watching other people that are angry and traumatized and almost their behaviors, when you take a person and you completely dismantle their world, they end up and just make them feel like crap, and that there's some sort of abuse, there's some sort of something that they have to live in fear from. You're either going to, you have like two freaking options. And this is when you're in your fight or flight state and you're not really working from a place of living, you're working from a place of survival. You have two options. You are going to either take that energy and protect yourself, or you're going to be very depressed. And it all depends on what type of person that you are specifically. It depends on what way your energy and your body deals with emotion. Me personally, being a Sagittarius sun and an Aquarius moon, I am the type of person that does not like to feel uncomfortable feelings. So it's something that I've had to work through, because you have to be able to feel your feelings. But I would get angry if I felt something that made me sad, if I felt some like humiliation and all of these things, and I would get angry. Some people get sad, some people get depressed. It depends on how this person, how people work with their energies. So some people that can be very tainted and very bitter can be abusive even in ways that they don't see as abuse, because they're used to it and that's how they grew up and that's how they lived. And when people are working through this trauma that they have and they're treating people like crap, sometimes they've never even seen anybody give them the respect of not treating them like crap. And then it's embedded, and that they have all of these projections about their trauma and how people treat them and things like that, that they have to unlearn, that can come out as and spew as negativity. And me personally, I was just generally, mad and didn't want to communicate with people. And when people came around, I could be quite rude, especially if I didn't generally pick up good vibes, because of everything that I had been through. And when you're working in a place of survival, you see the world differently. If you're moving from a place of hatred for the world, you're moving differently. And it wasn't until I had a conversation recently of why it is that I found that people who have been abused can become abusers. And I don't necessarily, and I feel like, and I was really I'm in this place where I'm observing more than I'm speaking. And I was just really seeing, having this conversation with somebody, and was really just seeing, their hurt and their pain in life. And that this person in question didn't mean to be hurtful or abusive to the world, that this person felt hurt and damaged and unloved by the world. And I could resonate with that. I could really resonate with that. Now, I didn't go out of my way to hurt people or anything like that. I pushed people away to protect myself from getting hurt. So there was a difference in that, because me, on my empathetic level, I never wanted anyone to feel the way it is that I felt, right? And I'm not making any excuses for somebody who's abusing somebody at all. I am saying that a lot of times abusers come from being abused. And when we're in situations like this, it's helpful to understand that, and this is the whole point of me saying all of this, it is important to understand that a lot of people are walking around very traumatized and angry and bitter, and that they were so sensitive at one point that the way that the world has treated them really, really hurt them and really, really hindered them. So they have this negative outlook on life. And understanding that is key. Okay? But that does not give anybody the excuse to be abusive. I'm saying that this is where abuse can stem from, or abusers can stem from. Not that it is an excuse, that's where it's almost rooted and developed. Obviously, people that are narcissistic, verbally abusive, whatever the case may be, physically abusive, need to literally sort their shit out of why it is that they are expressing themselves like that and why it is that they're exploding. Is this an issue of trauma that you need to deal with? Is it an issue of mental health? And sometimes, no matter how much people don't like to talk about mental health and abuse and trauma, they go hand in hand. Now, not every situation or mental health condition is brought on by abuse, but anxiety is, PSTD is, depression can be. All right, these are multiple different things that can affect you by your surrounding realities and what it is that you have been through. So understanding that sometimes these people need to, you need to separate yourself from the type of people that become abusers or are abusive. But these people, a lot of times, need help sorting through their trauma and feeling like the world loves them. But it is not your job to do that. It's not your job to do that. It's not your job, it's your job to say, or it's not your job at all to say anything really. Their job is to seek help and get therapy and not be an asshat. But it's literally they have to be able to see that for themselves. Sometimes they're in such a tainted world that they can't see that. And unfortunately, it is unfortunate to leave somebody alienated, to leave somebody that needs help, that you can see is hurting, but is toxic. Sometimes it's hard, and it's unfortunate that these people are almost, I want to say, the world has treated them so cruelly in the way that they've been treated, and in turn grew on them, and they in turn stepped into that vicious cycle of being cruel within a world that they feel is cruel to them. Now, mind you, again, I want to say I'm not talking about all abusers, because there's a big majority of abusers that are just entitled and just come from a place of just nastiness, that haven't been abused, and they're very entitled and controlling and things like this. And sometimes, a lot of times, they've been raised by a family member that is like that, or a family member. So that's where I was going, whether it's an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent or a parent, nevertheless, that there's a lot of people out there like that. But I'm specifically talking about how people that are abused can transfer into being an abuser because of their tainted view on the world. And I just kind of wanted to shed light to this, because the reason why I wanted to shed light to this is because we take on these feelings. We take on these feelings that are self-loathing. We take on these feelings like our abuse is our fault. We take on these feelings that that we're not good enough, that if we would have did better, that people would have treated us better, or they would have loved us more. Because when someone is damaged and someone is angry and someone is abusive, there's nothing that you could have done better to not get treated that way. It is important to know that a lot of times these people are moving from messed up scenarios, messed up versions of life that they have lived through. It is important to know this because that's how we stop the cycle. And that's how we stop the cycle of being thrown into a vat of depression and feeling unworthy and being depressed, or throwing into a vat of depression and feeling unworthy and being an abuser. That's how we stop the cycle, because we realize that people are damaged. We realize that people are self-destructive because they don't know what to do, or they're self-destructive out of fear, or they're angry out of fear, or they're angry out of frustration. Again, not an excuse. And I'm saying this to understand, hopefully to reach somebody to understand that people are moving out of their trauma and the way that they've been raised. And that doesn't have anything to do with you. It has to deal with their other people's coping mechanisms and how it is that they handle life, or the lack thereof. But you don't have to continue to walk around thinking that it was your fault. If I was better, if I was smarter, if I was different, if I was prettier, if I listened better, if I cleaned better, that you wouldn't be abused. And at the end of the day, if somebody is an abuser, they're going to abuse you. If somebody is in that abusing mentality, or even if somebody is so angry to the point where they're exerting abuse out of anger, they're just losing it, they're just snapping. It's not necessarily what it is that you're even doing. Because we have to have a sense of self-control. And these people do not, or they do not, or they feel that it's justified in some way and it's not. Understanding that it's not you. Even if you're difficult, you don't deserve to be abused. If you're annoying, you don't deserve to be abused. If you are not as, I don't want to say not as intelligent, but if you don't grab things as quickly as other people and people are getting frustrated with you, that doesn't give them the right to treat you in a nasty way. And to be able to stand up and have boundaries and say, no, I'm not participating in this, and no, you're not going to talk to me like that, is very important. But unfortunately, we sometimes get ourselves into situations where things can be dangerous if we speak up. So then we need a support system and to ask for help and to be able to execute things in the safest way possible. And that is where things get difficult. That's where things get hard, when we're dealing with people that aren't just verbally abusive, but are physically abusive or sexually abusive, that turns into that. And that is a form of physical abuse that transcends into getting your ass beat, literally. You know what I mean? When you try to stand up for yourself. So sometimes we have to call in on the support of others and even have a support system. And then sometimes abusers have you to the point where you're so alienated because they don't want you to be able to leave, that makes it very, very difficult. So anybody that's going through any situations like this, I really hope that you find your support system and that you can get out of the abusive situation safely. Because I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to pretend that everybody can just walk up and leave, that everybody can just safely exert boundaries, because that's a lie. And I'm not going to ever be one that is going to get on social media and lie to you guys. I'm not going to be one that gets on social media and tells you guys something because I think you're going to digest it well. I'm going to come to you straight, real rap raw with what spirit is telling me and what it is that I've researched through my 28 years of life, where I've been alienated to the point where I watched people. I've studied them. I've studied their mannerisms. I've studied what it is that they do, why it is that they say, why it is that they act the way that they did, because I did not understand them. So all of the information that I bring to you guys has been channeled from spirit, or I have literally witnessed, researched, and acknowledged, witnessed different scenarios and situations and why things work the way that they do. And I feel like that's why this is, my purpose, because I'm a Sagittarius. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. If you know Sagittarius, we're blunt and we say things that other people want to say but don't have the balls to say. That's what we do. And then I'm an Aquarius on top of it, Aquarius moon. So then I'm just like, that's what Spirit said. I don't know what to tell you. And I don't mean to come off raw or dry. A lot of times I'm picking up the frequency of what it is that Spirit is giving off. And then I'm projecting that energy because I am a channel for Spirit. But I hope that, and I'm setting the intention that everybody that needs to see this sees this for clarity and understanding and strength, whether they are an abuser that has been abused themselves and needs a wake-up call. I hope that this is your wake-up call to get help for yourself. And for people that are in abusive situations, I hope that this is your wake-up call to seek the help. Seek for the help that you need safely, and as well as, if you are in a safer position, exerting boundaries of what it is that you actually deserve. And I'm setting the intention that people really receive the message of how the abuse that you have encountered and entailed in life is not your fault. All right. Now, I hope that everybody has a great day, and that you guys have gotten all the clarity that you need.